24 hours of running, training in the hills and the mountains, Snowdonia becoming a common training ground. All of this and an up and coming race recently taken over by UTMB. So what does it take to get into ultra running? Hello and welcome to the Ultra Running Podcast with me, Coach Marshy. I hope you're all well. My training continues. My recovery from injury continues. And if you want to follow that, that is over on my vlog on the Coach Marshy YouTube channel. So we are going to bring in today's guest. So I would like to welcome Tana to the show. Hello, Tana. How are you?
Hello. I'm doing really good. How are you?
Yeah, good. Thank you. Good. So if you can just tell the audience and the listeners sort of who you are, where you're from, and what you kind of do as a normal day job or in the day-to-day life, and then sort of tell us your involvement in running very briefly.
So I'm Montana and I'm based over in North Wales. My family are in Snowdonia, but I'm originally just from south of Manchester. I'm a teacher, but I teach much older kids. I couldn't do any of these primary school teaching. So I teach biology up to 19 years old. So they've got attitude, so it's great. And I've started running probably only about 5 years ago. And last year, I've been into climbing, hiking, mountains for years and years. So then last year, I kind of turned to the ultra world and did my first ultras last year, doing a 24-hour one, just under 80 miles in that, in Snowdonia. And yeah, now I'm training for the UTS coming up in July, and hopefully the Lakeland as well, the Montane Lakeland.
At what distance at the Lakeland?
The 50 mile.
Excellent. Excellent. So, okay. So actually, let's just think about what you just said there, because living where you're from as an ultra runner, the first thing that comes to mind is that is ideal for training on your doorstep, right?
Oh yeah, definitely. Like, I know I'm very fortunate. So from my parents' house, I can get to the mountains from the door, and from my house, I'm on the Clwydian range. So Mulvamai and all of those are my during the week I can do hill training still. So yeah, really fortunate.
Yeah, no, really lucky. Very envious actually sitting here down in flat Cambridgeshire, to be honest. So, yeah, no. And then what type of biology do you teach? Is it human biology?
All sorts. I actually have a master's in environmental science, though. So that's where my passion is: zoology, environmental science. I worked in conservation before teaching, so that's the kind of route I've taken.
So do you quite like the whole ultra training and being out in nature as well then?
Oh, 100%. Like, yeah, a day out in the hills or the mountains is awesome. It's what I've done today. So it's, yeah, perfect morning, really, going out for a long run.
Brilliant. So where was that today?
So I was actually over in the Peak District, because why not? Thought I'd try a bit different. Even though I grew up near the Peak District, I don't really know it. So I wanted to see the best bits. So I did the skyline of Edale. So it was like an 18-mile, took in like Kinder Scout and Mam Tour, the ones that everyone hears of. So yeah, did that this morning. So that was fun.
No, brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. So let's focus in on your sort of running journey. By the sounds of it, you're quite, in terms of running age, you're still quite a young runner. You've only been doing it sort of 5 years, and then the ultra world specifically only a year. So in terms of that kind of transition from being just a runner and then getting into the ultra, you mentioned that you sort of done that in the last sort of year. What was it that made you do that? What inspired you? Or was it something you saw in the media? Or was it, just a natural next step? What was it?
So it's a bit of a funny one, because I always do things that people don't expect. Like I'm always traveling. I'll travel on my own. I like to push myself out of my comfort. But I've always been up mountains and, like I said, climbing, and I'll do like solo scrambling. So it was actually last year. It was right at the start when we had that weird lockdown, and I remember seeing a thing about raising money for charity, and it was like, run 100 miles in a month. And I thought, well, I can't do that because I already run a bit, and my friends and family would be like, okay, I'm not giving you money to just do what you normally do.
Yeah, I'll
So
get you on that. I know what you mean.
yeah, so I was like, maybe I could do something like that really like pushes me a bit. And it was funny because I was listening to a podcast, and they said in this podcast about as soon as you know you're going to do something, as soon as you set that goal, you stop worrying about whether you're going to do it, and you just start making it happen. Like as soon as you've committed to something, it becomes a lot more easier. And I remember I was actually on a run, and I was listening to it, and I was like, this is it. I've got to do it. I'm doing it. It's going to be on this date. I'm going to do it. 24 hours round my mum and dad's house. So really hilly as well. That will get people to like take notice. And I meant it did, because all my friends were like, are you mad? But because they're not they're runners, but they're not ultra runners. So
Yeah.
to turn around and be like, oh, I know I normally just run like 10K or maybe half a marathon. I'm going to try and run 80 miles in 24 hours. They were just like, why? So
Yeah,
yeah, just went.
I think in the ultra world is a bit of a, if you know, you know, and if you don't, you really don't know what it entails. And yeah, I get it. I've got friends like that as well. They've got no idea. But
Yeah.
so 24 hours, and you decided to, looking at what I can tell, you did that in a loop. So you were doing loops.
Yeah.
And how far was the loop?
So each loop was 4 miles, 4 mile loop.
Nice. That's a good distance, actually.
Yeah, I was originally going to do a 6 mile loop. And yeah, because it was around my parents' house. Their house was in the loop. I knew the trails, and literally the week before they moved these like bullocks into one of because they're on a hill. So you get sometimes cows in less field. So they moved the cows in, and I was like, oh no. So I had to change my route. And it ended up a 4 mile one. And I have to say it was a really nice distance to do.
So as an ultra runner, would you say you're outside your comfort zone when you're in the field with cows?
I meant, yeah, and this has happened through running. I never used to be bothered by cows until one ran at me. So yeah, now I am. Now I'm not comfortable with cows.
Yeah, no, I think it's there's quite a few stories about cows and animals during ultra runs, and I guess in the UK we're lucky because we've only got cows and
Yeah.
sheep, whereas I guess other places have more sort of dangerous animals. But okay, so you talked about like getting out of your comfort zone, and you like to challenge yourself. So obviously this 24-hour raising money was that kind of that first opportunity for that, it sounds like, in terms of the ultra running space.
Yeah.
What was the main driver for that? Was it raising the money for charity, or was it the challenge, or would you say it was equal?
It started as like equal, of wanting to raise money, because it was two charities. It was one for the one I was employed by, which was Orangutan Foundation International, because I used to work for them. And then the other one was the meningitis research. So that was a friend who lost their daughter to meningitis. So it was very, really, personal charities that I raised money for. But as the training went on, I just fell in love with ultra running. So I ran an ultra before I actually ran my 24. I included into my training. I ran 2 beforehand, just to like see what it was like, and the amount of research I did was just insane. I like lived and breathed ultra running. So
Yeah, so would you say as a kind of person, you're quite thorough with that kind of thing? You like to understand things that you're doing and how they work in the process?
Yeah, I think, yeah, I knew what I was trying to do from going from someone who I hadn't actually run a marathon.
Right.
um, I knew what I was going to undertake could go wrong if I didn't do it right. Um, so essentially, even when I was on runs, I'd be listening to podcasts and listening to other ultra runners, just so I could predict what the issues might be. For example, like I fully expected to hallucinate, and then I did, and then it didn't even scare me because I was like, "Oh, that's fine. That's what's
Yeah,
happening."
I've got to say one of my stories, and the regular listeners will be aware of it, is that on my first, well, my second ultra, I hadn't really understood that can happen quite often, and I hallucinated, and it was the most scary thing ever. You know, I was chatting
Really?
to little birds and owls in the trees in the middle of the night, and it was 2 a.m. apparently, and I got hypothermia, and it was just I didn't
Oh
know
my,
what to expect. So I think you saying that is probably like a really good sort of tip as well for our listeners, that the
yeah,
fact that you knew that it could happen and then it did and you were prepared sounds, well, it sounds ideal because you could deal with
yeah.
it, right?
Because yeah, definitely. Like mine was, I think, 4 in the morning. Um, so I'd been running for I can't do. Oh no, wait, 17 hours. So I was 17 hours in. Obviously, like it's
Yeah.
4 in the morning, so it wasn't quite. It wasn't light, um, but it was starting to get slightly light again. And I was running down the road, and I was looking at. I was watching a bird in the middle of the road, and the bird literally just melted into the tarmac, and I was like, "Oh, I don't
So
think that."
some of the stories from hallucinations are really funny, and that's cool. That's a cool one. I like that. And
What
actually often involves birds as well.
I know, it's weird, isn't it? Like, but again, and an animal, because my friend joined me for that lap, and to kind of keep me going. And I don't fully remember this bit, but we were going up one of the hills, and I literally turned to her and went, "There's an animal up there," and then just carried on. There's a big animal up there, because I remember seeing a big animal, like black animal, and she was just like, "Is there a big animal, or are you all right?" And I was like,
Yeah.
"Yeah, it's fine."
Yeah, no, I think yeah, I've heard some stories about hallucinations, and I think anyone going into this world should probably expect that. And trust me, when you don't know it's going to happen, it's pretty weird.
Yeah.
So okay, so during that 24-hour event, then what? You're running overnight, you're running, through all different times of the day.
Mhm.
How did that feel? How did you feel your body adapted to that? Did it adapt, or did you find there was real struggles?
Um, Honestly, it was like the best 24 hours of my life, which I think is probably a bit weird. And everyone was surprised that I was pretty much grinning the whole way through. There was just one. It was 11 o'clock at night. I think I literally that was the only time I shed a little tear, because I realized I'd been running for 12 hours and still had 12 hours to go. And
Yeah,
obviously 11 o'clock at night, that's when you're starting to feel tired. So that was the only time. And my dad was there, and I literally went up to my dad and put my head on his like chest, and I was like, "I'm really tired." And he went, "You'll be all right, kid." And I was like, "Okay." And then just carried on, and then I was fine again. In terms of my body, again, I fully prepared for like blister prevention, any little niggles I had going on, taping, compression. So I knew what I was going to do to keep my body together. Um, so overall, my body did great. Like it was, I was surprised at how well I did. I mean, I'm not gonna lie. By the end of, obviously, when you're near on 80 miles running, it was a weird feeling, like your muscles feel kind of like they're coming away from the bone. I know that sounds really horrible, but it's true. It's that like it's a weird ache, a weird pain. It's like your body's starting to fall apart a bit. Um,
yeah.
for the most part, really good.
Yeah, no, I can relate a little bit. I've not done too many ultras yet. You know, I was kind of projecting into it as lockdown came, the original lockdown in the pandemic. So, but
Yeah.
I relate to what you're saying, and I think, you know, you are right. The feeling of the muscle soreness is different
Mm.
to anything else that you would do. You know, weight training, resistance training, whatever it is you train out there, and what people do, even like sport around sort of team sports that I've played, it's never the same as when you're actually out there in mile, you know, whatever mile you're on. But you know,
Yeah.
when you're sort of when you're up at 100k, that feeling is different and
Yeah.
it's unique, and it's hard to explain what that's like unless you know. But yeah, no, cool. And obviously 24 hours approaches, you get to the end, and you said it was just under 80 miles. What was the
Mhm.
first thing you thought of afterwards?
Uh, I lay on the floor and asked for a cider, um,
Nice.
a fruit cider, which then I just abandoned because, like, I really wanted it, and then I started drinking it. I was like, no, actually, I don't want this. Um, and it was just relief. Like, I was just so proud of myself, and it was. I was just so happy. It just felt like the best 24 hours. Like, and all my friends were there supporting me, so it felt it yeah, it felt awesome. So I was just relief and happiness. So
And
yeah.
how long after that was it until you thought, right, this is the sport, this is what I'm going to do, and I'm going to do this race, or I'm going to go for this race, or whatever it was you thought along those lines? How long was it afterwards?
It started before. So before I'd even done the 24 hours, like I said, I'd run a couple of ultras, and I was like, I really like this. Like, this is really good. And I thought about during the summer trying to set an FKT on one of the Snowdonia trails. But I actually literally I had I think 2 weeks, 3 weeks complete rest and recovery after the 24 hours. Like, I didn't do any training. I think I went for a run and I went for hikes, but I didn't do anything. The first week I was like, couldn't walk properly anyway. Um, and then I had 3 weeks that started training again. I went to Guernsey to visit family and completely destroyed my ankle, like running. Um, I went over on a trail and really sprained my ankle. So then I was literally injured for months then. And at that point, Montaigne had asked me, do I want to go into any of the races? So I'd entered into the Chevrolet, I always say it wrong, the goat, the one with the goat.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I always say that first bit wrong. That's really bad. And I was really looking forward to it because it was a winter one. And I love winter running. And yeah, my ankle just I couldn't train. So I had to drop out of that. And then it came back round to the start of this year, and I always run but not training. And then again, Montaigne were like, hey, do you want to do any of these races this year? And I was like, yeah, I'll do the Lakeland. And then yeah, UTS Mike, the organizer, contacted me and he was like, do you fancy doing the UTS? And I was like, yeah, okay. So I'm really excited for that one. That one I'm so excited for because it's home turf.
So let's we'll come back. We're going to come back to UTS in a minute, actually, but let's go back a little bit and just rewind. Obviously, injuries are serious, but on
Mm.
not such a serious note, Tana, I understand you like to take a little dive every now and then, and you like to fall face first into the
Oh
rocks.
no.
You know, you can't post things like that on social media and get away with it. I've got to
I
say, I don't, you know, we'd never met, and I saw it and I found it absolutely brilliant.
Honestly, it was so funny. So for people who won't have seen it, there is a fabulous picture from a few weeks ago, about a month ago now, I think, up in the Lake District. Um, I was on a shoot for Montaigne for their running stuff coming out next year, and me and the other runner were they'd found this trail, and they were like, okay, we need to do this a few times now. So we did literally back and forth. We had a guy running in front of us with a camera. We had a drone guy, and then it was time for the stills. So I'd ran up and down this thing like 10 times, and I was like, right, this is the still camera. I've got to make this look cool. Like, you've got to go full eagle and stuff. So there was not a big drop, but there was quite a big drop. And I was like, I'm going to do this great. So I went off that, looked awesome on that part. And then the path literally just goes like that to the right. And I kind of misstepped and literally face planted. Luckily, there was grass. So I actually ate grass, literally ate grass. So I didn't hurt myself at all. But yeah, the camera, because obviously shoot, was on me and got me with literally, like, it's basically like this, as in my legs are scorpioned. I'm scorpioned with my face on the floor. It's just, yeah, it's a brilliant shot. I'm not sure Montana are going to use it for their campaign, though. I don't know why.
I mean, obviously, I made a note on that because I saw it, and I've got to say, when you're just scrolling Insta story or wherever I saw it, it just kind of like, I saw it and I thought, that's brilliant. And I don't know, I didn't know what you were doing at the time either. I didn't realize you were on a shoot, but it was just a real funny moment, but only probably for those that are in the that trail running world where anyone who's been on trail runs. I mean, I only recently went down I hit the ground hard last summer, just from hitting the smallest route in the world. But whether it's that or whether it's like what you've just described, when you do it regularly and it happens at times, it can just happen, misplaced step, whatever, like you did. And when you see someone else do it, obviously you hope no one's injured, but actually it's quite funny. And it is a bit of a thing within the community that I find that we do like to talk about, when you stack it, how many times do you end up on the ground, things like that. And, when you did that, I've got to say, I thought, yeah, if I can get her on an interview, I'm definitely going to ask her about it. And it sounds actually quite an interesting story. I'd imagine the joke is that you recce'd it probably 5 or 6 times because you'd ran up and down it, and then you managed to still go down, which is brilliant. So,
and in front of, I couldn't believe it. I've not stacked it like that for such a long time. And I managed to do it in front of 12 crew, like 12 different, like, guys from Montaigne, from the creative director. All of them were watching. I managed to do it in front of all of them. Obviously, they were just like, oh my God, she's broke her face. But luckily, I hadn't. And I literally sprang back up and I was like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. I ate grass. And they were like, what? Are you okay? And I was like, yeah, I ate grass. It's fine.
Well, they definitely won't forget you now. That's for sure. So let's talk about UTS then. So for those that aren't clear, Ultra Trail Snowdonia. So which race is it that you're going to be in?
So it's actually just the 50. So I'm not going to be in with all the stars of ultra running who are doing the highest up one, the longest distance. But yeah, it was just like Mike contacted me and said about that one, so I was like, okay, it sounds good.
You're going to be in the 50K.
Yeah. So it's still, it's still the first kind of, well, it's my first sky running ultra where it's classed as a sky run.
Yeah. It's all up, isn't it? So
yeah. So from what I can tell.
So previous guest on the show, Ian, and a good friend of mine, he's in my running club. He's actually in that race as well, and I'll be there. I'll be there that day as well. So hopefully we'll get to meet in person. But obviously the UTS, the change that it's gone through, obviously UTMB now being involved in that, and it being this kind of idea of a World Series now. How do you feel about all that? Do you feel like you're part of something big now?
Kind of. Like, it's cool to go to something where, like I said, where all the heroes of ultra running are going to be the ones which are just doing crazy stuff. In Damien Hall, I think he's in it. there's so many. There's loads of the big names are there. So, and obviously they're already hedging bets on who's going to win that and which runners are going to do really well. So that part will be really cool. It's kind of
I think Nikki Spinks is confirmed as well, possibly.
Yeah.
So yeah, no, that is cool. And on that note, have you kind of got a role model? Have you been inspired by anyone in particular? Have you done what I do, and you watch the YouTube videos of all these great people out there? Have you got anyone in mind that's sort of caught your eye and been a bit of a role model?
Yeah, I mean, I follow like loads of like you said, you kind of watch them all on YouTube or even on like Instagram. Like at the moment, John Kelly's just bagging Wainwrights and is on day 6 of like just mental elevation and like looks like he's starting to feel it a bit now, but he's an absolute machine. So yeah, I'd say on Instagram you do get that. It's a really good community actually for ultra running, because you can just get inspired and everyone's dead friendly. So you can actually reach out to these people who are, the stars of ultra running, and they're just normal people. At the moment, I'm actually reading Lizzie Hawkins' book.
Any good?
It is actually, yeah, it's really good. She's pretty much like most trail runners. I don't know whether it's a woman trail running thing, but we all seem to not really know what we're doing, as in like, as in for my 24 hours, like I went from not even running a marathon to being like, yeah, I'll just run 24 hours, it'll be fine. It's interesting because she did the same at a young age. She was just like, yeah, I'll just try and do this ultra and see how it goes. And there's been a few like that, which is really inspiring when people are doing that. They're just jumping into a big challenge. Doesn't mean they're not preparing, but they've never done anything like it before. So
yeah, no, I agree. Actually, we're interviewing lots of different people from different walks of life on this show, and not just on this show, but also the people I've met at various events over the years. It is like we've all come from like essentially nowhere to what we're doing that day. And the truth is other than actually being prepared through research and some mileage, we'd never done anything like it before, and you just find yourself there. And I don't suppose, other than UTS being in your backyard, if you like, is going to be an advantage. It must be. You must feel pretty comfortable being there.
Yeah, but it's also more pressure in a way. Like,
yeah,
I'm excited for it, but I have to keep taking the pressure off myself, because I do better when I'm doing it for fun, not for a time or an expectation. So I keep trying to just bring myself back down and not get like stressed about it and put in this like time and all of this on it. So hopefully it will be an advantage, as in I know the area. So if we get one of those horrible days where it just clags in, yeah, there might be that kind of aspect, and I'm used to the terrain more. Because it's so rocky compared to anywhere else in England, and South Wales is completely different. Even the lakes is nowhere as like good as Snowdonia. So I think it does have that edge, and that's probably why they've chosen like Snowdonia for it, because it does give you that sense of proper mountain running, even though obviously the mountains aren't Alp mountains.
Yeah, no, I agree, and I love your outlook there as well. The kind of taking the pressure off. I think we probably all know runners out there that could do with hearing what you just said, actually, because to not have that pressure on you. But I get what you're saying as well, with it being your backyard, and you want to. It might add that pressure as well, because you kind of, your expectation might be greater because you know what's coming. But when it comes to, as you put it really well, actually, maybe UTMB picked UTS because of, I guess it's going to be the closest thing you can get in the UK to what maybe the UTMB Mont Blanc kind of areas like, and we appreciate it's nothing like that, but it's probably the best trail around.
Yeah.
I've got to admit, I've never been up Snowdonia. To be fair, I've never been up Snowdon.
Oh, have you?
No.
I meant I completely avoid it like the plague. I've not been up for years because it gets swamped. Everyone goes there. But the other parts, I mean, I need to start going up Snowdon because I need to like recce that area. But the mountains just north of it are just as big, nearly, and really good. But I can't believe you've not been up Snowdon. You need to do it.
No, not done it. So it's on the bucket list just to go up and just have a leisurely day. But to be honest, these races are starting to come onto the bucket list as well. So hopefully I'll be going up often is what I'm hoping in the future. But we identified a few minutes back about you being quite thorough, and you mentioned the word recce there. In terms of like preparing for this race and UTS in particular, do you think the recce is important? You think it's definitely something that you would always do?
No, not necessarily. I feel like I should because I'm there, if that makes sense. It feels almost wasted if I don't go and have a look at least part of the course. Like I don't want to run the route beforehand, not in one go. But I don't know why. I just don't want to. I don't want to ruin the surprise.
Yeah, I get it. It's like when people go and run a marathon before they run a marathon. It's like, surely you want the elation to be when you actually do it for the first time, right?
Yeah, it's just like, because then I'll expect the route. Like I'll know what is around every corner, and I don't want to. But I'll do some of it, and hopefully I'll probably run like the Snowdon Horseshoe and stuff like that, just to feel running Snowdon and that, because obviously that will encompass the route a bit, but I'm not going to run it before. Even though I will be running that distance before I do it, I won't run that route.
Yeah, no, I get it. And I think, some people love to do it the way that we perhaps identified that we wouldn't do it, as in like they'd run the whole thing just to see what it's like. Obviously, I guess on the longer stuff, you can't do that. As we speak right now on recording, for those of you listening back, it won't be true, but right now it is it's the Thames Pathway 100 miler as we speak. And, I love that I'm here interviewing you today, but actually I should be running that. That was one that I've missed out on. I'd qualified, I was ready to go, and an injury just didn't allow it. But these long races, you just can't recce it, right? So, and actually Snowdonia, there's Snowdonia is a vast area, right? You can't go and recce all 50k of that race. That would just be ridiculous. So I think my experience of recce is to understand the type of terrain that you're going to be on, know what it's like in places, but because that's in your backyard, if you like, you've got that with you, and I wish you all the best with it, and I hope that will be an advantage to you on the day, and you can do what you just said. You want to enjoy it, that enjoyment, no pressure. So if we can, I'm going to ask you here, what is the aim, Tana? So the whole aim of ultra running for you, what is the aim? What's the pipe dream? From where I'm sitting on Instagram, looking and watching what you're doing training wise, it looks absolutely awesome, and like you're taking it really seriously. So what do you see? What do you see? Like, I don't think any answer here is wrong, by the way.
Do you know what? I don't know. I take it year by year, because you kind of, you have seasons, don't you? And I think I want to continue with ultra running. And if you look at kind of the top ultra runners, especially females, they are older. So I'm a young female ultra runner. Like the absolute legends who are smashing it still are, a lot of them fall into the veterinary category, or they are late 30s. And I guess I'm like, I'm wanting to build to that and maybe do something awesome in the future. But I want to stay on the scene and just see where
it goes.
Yeah. I don't know how many. That's the thing. I don't know whether I'm actually any good. So, yeah, I'll probably find out a little bit more doing these races. So, yeah, but I just
So,
want to enjoy it. To be fair.
so without asking you what your age is, what is your age?
Oh, my age, 28.
Cool. So just to put that into context, that would, I reckon, if you look at these people, they're like at least they're like 40 years old, 40 years and up, and they're like elite. They're top of the game. They're like so inspirational. It's unbelievable. And you've maybe got 12 years yet before you kind of hit that peak.
Yeah,
You
unless I
know,
keep planting, then
well,
maybe not.
yeah. If you do that, then you're going to be in trouble. But well, unless you eat grass, you'll be all right. But
Yeah,
I think to be honest, you've probably got a great opportunity here if you wanted to do that. And you
yeah,
know, I am a coach in other walks of life, not necessarily in ultra running, but when you sort of see what you're doing now and where you might want to go, take it year on year.
yeah,
Why not have sky the limit? Sky is the limit, and you can gain that experience. And maybe at the time that they've done it, you mentioned FKTs earlier on.
yeah.
You know, those sorts of things. What a great idea that would be.
Yeah. Well,
But
one of my absolute goals, which I just forgot to even say then, was like I really want to run across a country. Not like Liechtenstein or something really small, but like a bigger country. I'd love to say I've run across.
yeah,
So I don't know where or what or when, but love to do a big probably multi-week kind of run, like an epic run. That would be great.
yeah. I mean, there's lots of stories out there from America, isn't there? Lots of people have now sort of ran across America as such, across the famous bike route. But yeah, no, that's a cool goal to have actually. And then because it's relevant, I always ask this question: have you got any bucket list races that you've seen or heard about that you want to do?
No, I'm rubbish with races. If I'm honest, like I love running on. This sounds really bad, running on my own, but I'm running on my own terms and my own routes, and so I'm not race focused. I'm kind of seeing this year like what that brings, because obviously the 24-hour one I organised myself, and it was like an effort. I have to say it was like a massive effort. And luckily I had an amazing group of friends who were my crew basically, monitoring me and helping with kind of hydration and stuff. But yeah, in terms of races, I don't really have any race goals yet. So we'll see. I don't
Hey,
know.
there's time. There's plenty of time.
There's
We've
plenty.
we've established there's time, so that's cool. So just talking a little bit more about your training. Obviously, we can tell from what you've said that you've got lots of specific areas that you can run in, that are very relevant to ultra running. But away from the running, are you doing any sort of strength and conditioning work or any gym work to kind of go with it?
Yeah, and that's a big shift from last time. Trying to incorporate not heavy, but like strength training, weighted strength training, rather than just body weight. So yeah, I'm trying to do kind of 2 sessions if I can a week, which I know it sounds like it should be easy, but it's not, because you're trying to get in so many miles, still work a full-time job and strength training. So yeah, starting to. So I'd say I do at least an hour a week of weighted heavy strength training now, which yeah is new, all new. That
So you're
part.
using kind of like Olympic bars and dumbbells and things like that,
Yeah, like the
the big
squat.
bars.
Yeah, and yeah, dumbbells and stuff to do lunge walks and things like that, but weighted. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, no, it's good because it builds the strength. It's definitely kind of overload. It's overloading the joints and the angles and the power that you can create within
yeah,
certain movement patterns as well. They're all greater than the running stride. So if you step off the path and don't face plant, you can push yourself back up, and you got the strength to do that. But I think, you know, joking aside, obviously I do a lot of strength and conditioning in my gym. And, you know, one thing that I always say to the runners in particular is that if you look at like a squat, a lunge, the movement pattern is of a greater angle than you'll ever meet in running. So should you have to step out of that and go greater, rather than buckle in and fall in, you can actually save yourself, because you've got the strength in there to actually get back up in that range of movement. And I think, you know, for me, the ultra running world, you know, some people would say I'm very opinionated on this, but the ultra running world and strength and conditioning are not yet aligned, and they probably need to become more aligned. But I think people are overlooking what you can get out of a gym session. Although I would say, you know, like John Kelly and those guys, the top guys, you know, Nikki Spinks and Beth Pascal and all those guys, they are doing it now. And if you hear them talk, like Damien, if you hear him talk, they do talk about gym sessions and having a heavy gym session every week. So I think the fact that you've got that in there, for me, is great as a coach. You know, my gym is a kind of like CrossFit type of gym, so it's all around strength and work like that. And we do a lot of weight loss clients here, but when we focus on the runners, we try and make sure that we get that S&C in. And it's just good to hear you say that you are doing that as part of your plan, and clearly it wasn't something that you used to do.
No, I used to do a strength and conditioning, but I'd never weight myself. So it was always, you know, just body weight. Where else now I'm trying to do like quite high reps with medium weight, I'd say, with like squatting and lunges and stuff. So still trying to keep the reps up. And I actually did that for the fact that I am trying to, well, I'm doing more mountain running. So you do massive step ups as well and things like that. You need those powerful muscles more than if you're just plodding like little undulating or flat. They really come into play when you're on steep terrain as well. And I've also started speed, like hill speed stuff, which I just hate, but I do it.
It hurts, right?
Oh yeah, it's so hard to motivate yourself. Like, luckily I'm extremely disciplined, because motivation, no, but literally
Yeah, no, I think your Instagram's very good to follow in terms of like what you're doing, and it looks like you're having a great time while you do it as well, which is cool.
Oh yeah, like as soon as I'm out there, I'm loving it. It's normally the kind of thought of it, or if I'm tired, because when you start a training plan, or when you're kind of, because I'm kind of 4 weeks into my intense training now, and it starts to, your body does go through a stage where you kind of start increasing that training and you're feeling fine and everything, and then suddenly you start to just feel really tired all the time, like where your body suddenly just goes, oh right, we're sustaining this, I just need a moment to like accept what's happening. So I was at that part last week where I was just falling asleep at like 9:30 at night, because every day I'm running or doing strength training or running up a hill, or so yeah.
Yeah, no, that's
Fun.
cool. That's cool.
But
That's cool. I like it. I like hearing that experience, because, you know, people will listen to this. People have been listening to our podcast, and they sort of say they're looking to get into ultra running. And I think you can just, why not be a sponge and absorb what you've just said there, and actually use it as a way forward as well. You know, very very inspirational, Tana, I would say, to be honest. It sounds like you are thorough, and you know, someone that we can follow and actually think, you know, I think you're doing things in a great way from where I'm sitting. You know, what you've said today sounds brilliant. So, you know, fair play to you, and well done on it all. So, question here for you. What does running mean to you, and what does it give you?
ooh, what does running mean to me? Okay, right. So my answer kind of answers both in a way. Like, running for me is something I do for myself. It's definitely for myself, and it teaches me a lot. And I know from running, I've learned a lot, because running is difficult. Like, it's just difficult. Unless you're like Kilian Jornet, who can just run up Everest or whatever, it's really difficult. And it teaches you, like, for me, it's taught me how to like push through discomfort and go beyond those limits. So for me, it's a way of doing something I love, being outside, and it always reminds me, like, that you can do more than what you think or what your brain tells you, because your brain is kind of doing both sides. It's kind of like, hey, yeah, let's do this, is great, but it's also like, oh, we could just walk, this is hard, let's not, I'm tired, this is tiring, like, we should stop. And it's learning to increase the volume on the other voice, which is like, no, you can just keep going, like, keep going, doesn't matter on your time, it doesn't matter, you're having fun, like, just keep, like, chipping away. So yeah, for me, it's just, yeah, it makes me happier in general, in my general life. So it's good for all round. And yeah, definitely mind. Ultra running is all about the mind, 100%.
Love what you just said about the volume, turning the volume up on that voice. That's brilliant. I've never actually heard that in that context. That's brilliant. I'll give you the credit for it if I ever nick it. Don't worry. If I'm coaching, I'll say, right, it was someone on my podcast, Tana, she said it. But yeah, no, that's great. That sounds brilliant. What an answer. What a great answer. So go on then. Let's go for it. The question that we always ask: what would you say your top 3 tips are if you were saying to someone that was starting ultra running? What would you say?
Starting ultra running.
Yeah.
One of my tips would be, don't expect it to ever be easier or easy, but that threshold will increase. But like, my tip, it's about that mindset. That would be the first thing, of not expecting too much of yourself, and being, like, almost accepting of yourself that it's going to be hard. So just the top tip, like, not top tip, but one of my tips is definitely expect it to be difficult, but embrace that. Like, that's what it's all about. That's what ultra running is. And to kind of really embody that, follow other ultra runners. Like I said, watching John Kelly at the moment, that man is pushing his body, like, way beyond where most people can push their body. Like, and he's doing it right now, unless he's finished. He had 50k left. He might have finished by now. But get inspired and see that even the top athletes, like, it's still difficult. And that's not to put you off. It's almost the opposite. Like, so when you're out running and you're like, God damn, this is difficult, like, that's okay. That's fine. Like, you're doing awesome. You're out there doing it. And that's the thing. I would say for me as well, I bet everyone says this about, like, nutrition and hydration.
They do, but let's hear your take.
It's well hard to, the hydration is really hard to get right. So practice. I'm really lucky. I've never had any nutrition problems. Like, I can run along and just, like, eat. Some people really struggle with that. But when you're training, like, put that into your training. Don't forget to train for the eating part as well. Because if you're running, like, 50 miles, if you don't eat, you will not finish. Like, you got to eat at some point, or take a gel, or, like, that is so many calories. Your body just won't sustain it. So yeah, practice eating. Even if you're going on a shorter run that you wouldn't normally eat on, like, just make yourself eat to get used to it. Or what I used to do, which is not fun, is literally eat, like, a big breakfast and then go straight out for a run, like, literally straight after. So your body's like, what are you doing? And one more tip.
Go on.
I would say, enjoy it. Like, find routes that excite you when you're doing your training. Don't just keep doing the same boring little loop. Like, make the effort to go to new places and use your running for something fun. So go and explore different areas, because I think that can be a real mental struggle if you're trying to do long distance, because during the week you'll have to increase your week mileages. So if you're doing 45 miles a week and you're doing all 45 around the same area, it's going to get boring. So make it exciting, make it an adventure, especially with the nights being longer and like the evenings being later. Like, make that effort just to go somewhere, even if it's just down the road or, you know, through fields somewhere that you haven't been. Mix it up, mix your training up, because it will be easier to get out there when you've got something fun planned.
Yeah, no, what a great answer to that question. We have asked that question on every episode, and the way you've conveyed that, and actually the passion in which you said it with as well, is just, it's brilliant. It's very inspiring. It's very infectious as well. You know, I think they're great tips, and you know, just that last one in particular as well. What a really important point. You know, you don't want to get bored, and as that increases, that's so important. And yeah, no, great answer. Loved it, Tana. Loved it. So, if people want to follow this journey of yours, where can they find you?
They can find me on Instagram. So it's _Ultra Tana. So that's Ultra Tana. But if you literally search my name, like Montana, I normally come up as well, because there's not that many. So you can find me there, and literally I pretty much put everything I do up there. So you can kind of see what my training's doing as I do it. Sometimes I don't put miles up and stuff because I just forget, but you know, you get a rough idea.
Yeah, no, cool, brilliant. I'm sure lots of the listeners will go and have a look for sure. So, Tana, thank you very much for coming on the show. I absolutely loved that interview, and I personally am going to look forward to following the rest of this journey for this year and beyond, hopefully. And you know, thanks for your time.
No, thank you for having me. It was a really nice chat. Enjoyed that.
Awesome. So, guys, if you enjoyed the episode, be sure to make sure that you leave a review on whatever platform it is you are watching or listening. If you think there's things that Tana's mentioned there, and there's people that you know would benefit from that, please share that on, send it to them, share them the link, let them know, because this information is out there and we can all benefit from what Tana's had to say there. So all that is left to say is thanks once again, Tana. And I hope that everyone enjoyed themselves here listening or watching the show today. And we look forward to being here to discuss more on the Ultra Running Podcast.